Hi quilters, the trick-or-treaters have come and gone and now it's November, so that means it's time to pick our November project of the month. Once we picked our November project, we'll also be picking our December project because there are only 2 projects left. Before we pick the project for November, I'm going to show you my project from October. In October we picked project number 8, and my project number 8, this was my project number 8. It started off as a fat quarter bundle from AGF called Gloria, and the pattern is 7/8, and the pattern is written for a jelly roll, but I used a fat quarter bundle instead. I laid it out a couple of different ways and took pictures with my phone to decide which setting I wanted to use. I sent the pictures to my family and had them vote on the setting they thought I should use. Luckily, they picked the one I wanted to use, so they voted correctly. By using a fat quarter bundle, I was able to make some extra blocks so I'd have a little leeway with the setting. The binding fabric is the same fabric that I used for the background fabric. I had some leftover blocks when I was done, and because I was able to make extras because it was a fat quarter bundle. So to help me make the backing a little more usable, I made some rows that had the blocks and then just put them in with some other fabric for the backing. It's kind of a fun way to use the leftover blocks. I don't have to put them in my extra block pile, and it's kind of a reversible quilt. I have a few more samples of this particular pattern to show you. Here is another sample of that same pattern, and this is done with brighter fabric, and then I used a yellow for the background. And this pattern calls for 1 jelly roll, and I think it's 1 3/4 yards of a background, and then you also get a binding separate. This one was made with a white background and a really bright jelly roll. Love the way this turned out. So some of them I just kind of randomly placed the blocks. In the one I made for this month, I kind of made a pattern with the blocks so they would flow diagonally through the quilt. And the last sample I have of this one was made with batiks. Whoops. And this one's really pretty too. So it's a fun pattern. If you wanted to make it a little bit bigger, you could always use 2 jelly rolls and double the amount of the background fabric, or you could add a border. Earlier this year, we started a video series of quilts that use 2.5-inch strips, and that's been pretty popular. Apparently, a lot of you have 2.5-inch strips that you need to use up, just like I do. And so I wanted to show you a few more patterns that are piece tree patterns that use 2.5-inch strips. I'm going to show you samples of 7 different patterns that we have that all use 2.5-inch strips. We have Border Blockade, Role Play, Jelly Wish, All Rolled Up, Jelly Squares, Boxed In, and Jelly Jive. I'm going to show you samples of each. This pattern is called Role Play, and it uses 1 jelly roll or leftover 2.5-inch strips if you wanted to do it that way, and then you need an extra fabric for binding. And we have several sizes listed on the card. And this is how it is with just 1 jelly roll. The size of this quilt is 48 by 60. The next pattern I'm going to show you is called Jelly Wish, and again, it uses just 1 jelly roll. The sample I have is made with batiks. This one measures 50 by 60. I have 3 samples of All Rolled Up, and this one uses 1 jelly roll plus an additional fabric for the squares that offset the rectangles. This quilt measures 48.5 by 66. These are the jelly roll strips you made here, and then the squares is where it's offset. That's what you need the extra fabric for. And that is kind of a kid's version. And then I have this pretty floral version. So a lot of these samples come from when we test the pattern. We make them in a bunch of different colorways just to make sure that the pattern is good. And last sample to show you is this one. It's just fun to see how different it looks in different fabrics too. The next quilt I'm going to show you is called Border Blockade. It's 48 by 68 and it uses 1 jelly roll and 1.5 yards of an additional fabric that can be a border print to go in this section right here, or it can be just a overall pattern fabric, just a big design. And this is actually, I made this one a little bit smaller than the pattern actually ends up being. The next one I have is called Jelly Job. This pattern uses just 1 jelly roll plus a binding. I have 2 samples to show you. The first one, we made some black and white jelly rolls for the shop, and then we have these little mini rolls so that you could add in, for the pink, you could add in whichever color you wanted. So we have more of these coming out, putting together a black and white jelly roll. That's one. And then this is made with just a jelly roll. This quilt measures about 50 by 59 when finished. The next pattern I'm going to show you is called Boxed In. It measures 51 by 51. And this one uses a jelly roll and a charm pack. And you can use matching jelly rolls and charm packs, or you could even use a charm pack that's different from the jelly roll, just so long as they're coordinating fabrics. And of course, this would also work for scraps. Any of these patterns would work for leftover jelly roll strips or 2.5-inch strips of fabric. And the last one I'm going to show you is called Jelly Squares. It too uses 1 jelly roll and 1 charm pack. Or you can cut fabric. Instead of having different fabrics for the charms, you can cut 5-inch squares off of a bolt of fabric, and then they're all the same. And the fun thing about this one, it was really easy to put together. So now that I've shown you all of the other patterns that we have, well, not all of them, but a good variety of them, it's time to pick the number for November. And by doing so, we will also pick the number for December. So I just have 10 and 12 are left. What am I going to be working on in November? I'm going to be working on project number 12. That's the project for November, which means project number 10 will be for December. So my project 12 is going to involve me using some of these stack and whack blocks that I made ages and ages ago. I can't even tell you how long ago it was I made these, and I stuck them in a bag, never to be looked at again until today. So I have this kind of brown version, and then I had this version I made with this kind of like a Hawaiian looking fabric, and that was kind of fun. It had faces in it and all sorts of fun things. And then there's a version that has, I even numbered these. I don't know what number they're going to go with, but I'll figure it out. So there's 1, 2, 3 projects, and for some reason these odd bits of fabric are in here too, so I'll figure that out, and we'll see what I get accomplished in November. We hope you'll find some time to sew in November. We'll see you next month when I share my finished project. Thanks for watching. Happy quilting!